Hello, folks. JD Wessel back here with another Wildcat breakdown. And, folks, this will be the final Wildcat breakdown of our high school careers. I'm joined here by Jaden Cover and Craig Sullivan. How you boys doing?
Pretty good. Just
Pretty
ready
good,
to get
pretty
the
good.
last one.
Alrighty, so we're going to hop right into it. And, folks, today we chose to talk about just a little list of our favorite moments of this year's high school sports here for Millard West, and kind of all around. We talk about a lot of different things, a lot of different sports, and yeah, we figured we'd end this one off with a bang on the final one here. So let's just get right into it. So number one on the list, well, top of the list for us right here is kind of beating some butt here against the Millard schools in football this year. Obviously beating Millard North. I don't know how much. Jaden, do you know
40. I think it was Millard South 48-6, and then Millard North was 49-16.
Yeah, so
it's like 97-23 combined.
And I think going in Millard West, we kind of knew that we had the better team out of the two teams this year going in. I mean, we had a lot of guys play their junior year, and then going into senior year, obviously they had a lot of experience going in, and both Millard South and Millard North, both of them lost quite a bit of seniors that were key players for them, and going in rivalry games.
Yeah, and they both had a different feel to them, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, going into Millard South, it was the kind of trying to fend off little brother who keeps on challenge you to a game of basketball, or challenge you to a pickup game. And I just remember going into that week, it was, you know what, we can't let Millard South beat us. We got to get the clean sweep. Because we've always kind of made fun of them for being the little brothers, and you got to back that up. And I just remember, I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous going into it, but then once their little stunt they pulled at the pep rally, and all those suspensions, I don't think they stand a chance anymore.
For sure. And if you guys don't remember, at their own pep rally, they decided it would be a good idea, the football team, when they got announced, getting ready for their big game that coming Friday, I believe, they decided to pull out some FMW t-shirts. You guys can make assumptions on what the letters stand for in FMW, but they decided to do that, and I believe their athletic director decided to suspend them all from the game. Most of the seniors, whoever was on the basketball court that decided to do that, suspending pretty much the whole team, and they wanted to argue it, but him and a lot of parents and everyone else kind of took it to Twitter and said, good job on that. That's your decision.
And the funny thing is when we all got caught wind of it, I mean, it was kind of, there's a buzz going around like, hey, kids are suspended. Yeah. I think Coach Pete addressed it immediately just so it wasn't, people weren't talking about it. And we were all kind of upset to a point because we knew even if we beat them, no matter how badly we beat them, it would be like, oh, if we had our players.
Yeah, they have that excuse.
It kind of left some unfinished business, I feel like, with the senior class, but it is what it is.
Their choice. Everyone's talked about it already, and we're kind of through that, knowing Millard South had a good ending to the season.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think a lot of people at Millard West would agree that we were probably still the better team.
Yeah, and then I'd say, the Millard North game, it was complete opposite. We got to find a way to beat them. It's been a couple years.
Yeah. In Millard North, they were kind of on and off all throughout the year.
It was a rebuilding season.
Yeah. Alrighty, so to move on, we have a list that's kind of out of order, and we're just going to kind of go through these. The next one is Millard South State Baseball. This was my personal favorite, probably because I was in the front of the student section yelling at my brother who was catching on the Millard South side. It's all fun and games, and, this happened less than a week ago. I believe it was around just a week ago.
Exactly a week
ago. Yeah. Millard South, Millard West, they always like to keep it interesting, and me going into that game knowing my brother would have a shot at beating Millard West, I really didn't want to lose that one, and all the guys on the team were talking, saying, hey, we need a big student section. we tried to deliver, and I think we did. Starting the right-left chant when the players would walk off the field or strike out, or Coach Geary from Millard South would come out, and we had a heck of a time there, obviously. And actually, the first time Millard South, Millard West played, actually, no, second time they played, which was at Millard South. And we have this written down about Max Anderson hitting a home run off of Kyle Perry, which I think we all know Max Anderson is D1 talent. He's already gotten a couple offers. I believe maybe Creighton, Nebraska, but I know he does have one from Kansas.
Yeah, and I don't want to say he came out of nowhere because I think people on the baseball team knew about it, but I think for all of us at Millard West, I mean, Colby was pretty hyped up before he was on varsity, but Max kind of flew under the radar, and I mean, it didn't work out for pitchers this year that didn't, I guess, study him enough because he had a great season.
And what Kyle told me, I was like, what are your thoughts on Max Anderson? And he goes, all I know is that's the first home run I've allowed since sophomore year.
Really?
Yeah. And, that's a whole 2 years for Kyle there, yeah.
Kyle doesn't throw it over the heart of the plate. You got to work for it.
And, the thing is, Max Anderson took it opposite field.
That takes power.
So, yeah.
As a sophomore to go opposite field on that.
On Kyle Perry, I mean, when all the scouts were there. So. But, yes, so next one, girls basketball versus Millard South. Craig, I just want you to start out on this one.
Yep.
Weren't you commentating that game?
Yeah, we were commentating that game. That was a very crazy game. Coming in, a lot of people thought Millard South was going to come in and roll them. Not really much of a chance. Millard West played competitive the whole game, and that really, I think, jump-started their season right there.
For sure, and you were on the call too, right?
I was watching I had the next game, but just from what I noticed, I expected, because I showed up with about 2 minutes left in that game, I expected to walk in, score by like 70-40 or something lopsided. And I think what Craig touched on, it jump-started their season. I think they were like 3-8 going into that, so it dropped them to 3-9. But then fast forward a month and they've got a winning record. So
and the thing about the girls team is I really like putting them on the list, even though they didn't win that Millard South game. You guys obviously just said they went on their winning streak. Really just turned around the whole entire season for them, and they fell short in districts, didn't make a state tournament appearance, but still just seeing those girls with Courtney Merriweather and Lauren Rongish out, the two star seniors on their team, just seeing the young talent, Chase Van Steele, Hannah Leo, Taylor Farrell, all those girls just kind of come together towards the end of the season and say, hey, it could be worse. All right, we don't have our senior leaders, but we need to make something out of what we got, and that's definitely what they did.
And I think they're going to be successful next year. And I think if that class looks, that junior class being senior class next year, if they want to look at a game of when did you guys think you were going to be good this season, look back to that Millard South game, because I think that changed not only this year, but momentum heading into next year.
For sure, and now, like you said, those girls have confidence going into next year, and definitely one of my favorite sports teams to watch this year, just based on how the season kind of went for them. So the next one is the girls soccer team, who did make it to state, and we have here beating Lincoln Southeast, and then obviously losing to Millard North, who won the state championship. I think adding the girls soccer team was definitely necessary. They had kind of an average season for what Millard West is usually known to have, and I think it was just cool for them to win their district and move on to state and just have that opportunity. They upset it, I believe, the 2 seed, was it, Lincoln Southeast?
Yeah, and they weren't even guaranteed to make it to state until their district win. I forgot who they beat in that. And then they not only did they beat Lincoln Southeast, but it wasn't really that close. I think it was 3-1, but at one point it was 2-1. So I think it got kick-started when Chase Fan still scored, and they just kept it going. It was a bummer they didn't beat Millard North. I think you and me were calling that game. I thought they played well. It was me and Andrew. They played well, and it was knotted up until I think late in the second half. But when you lose to the champions, I mean, you can't really be upset.
Looking back on it, they're probably thinking Millard North was the team. I mean, they beat Marion. Marion is always that top team along with Creighton Prep, but I think another big thing about that soccer season is like you always want to have the team that can wear the tatted arms, their tradition of having the tats on the arms, and it's got to be cool for the seniors to go out kind of with a bang, just making the state tournament, at least giving yourself a chance to win a state title is really all you can ask for. Winning districts is still really big, and that team's name will be on the wall for winning districts. So cool moment there. And next we have Brody Belt signing with Nebraska. I think going into this one, it was kind of a surprise for most, just knowing that not many players out in Nebraska were really getting looked at first.
For the longest time.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Mike Riley did wrong. Obviously, he's gone. You could talk, you could say whatever, but he's gone now. Scott Frost definitely came in and changed the culture of what we're going to be seeing for the next who knows how long.
Well, it was kind of interesting, kind of veering off just to the whole walk-on program for a couple seconds. I remember when I was playing in the River Battle Bowl, I was talking to Matt Masker. If you don't know who he is, he broke actually Scott Frost's Class C career passing touchdown record, and he's now down there. And I asked him when Frost got hired, because he had been kind of recruited by Riley, I'm like, do you think you'll still be looked at in Nebraska? He's like, I think this is better because Mike Riley and all of them, they quit talking to me. And I think it was the same for Brody. But I think once Frost came in the walk-on program, I think all those kids, it was for sure that almost like, hey, let's build a walk-on program. And I think it's great that Millard West was able to be a part of the first one.
For sure. And, talking about Brody, I think, just talking about him, people could see how good of an athlete he was his junior year. And I think going into that senior year, a lot of people were expecting an offer, I don't know about this big. Obviously, it is only a walk-on, but, we definitely could see that he was going to be given an opportunity to do something big. And I think this was the best choice for him,
And I've heard rumors right now he's 7th on the depth chart, which looks, you think at first, oh, that's deep down, but you look at Nebraska, they've got 3 senior running backs. I mean, this could be suiting up, because he's going to redshirt this year. He could be suiting up redshirt freshman year for all we know. So obviously he's put on like 10 to 15 pounds of muscle.
Yep.
It's a bright future for him.
For sure. So on to what we have labeled new rivalry with Burke. Take it or leave it on the new rivalry, but this season Millard West kind of met up in close to every single sport with Burke. So first it started with football, where us and Burke, we got into a little dogfight into was it semifinal game? Quarterfinal game. Which, I mean, at that point, that was probably the biggest game of the year for both teams and probably all of the state of Nebraska.
Yeah, I'd say going into that game, I think everyone was kind of like, at least
these are the two teams.
I think for Burke, I always look at, the 2 and 7 matchups interesting, because usually the 7 seed's a team that lost 2 games. Usually the first seed's the dominant one, and I think Kearney was actually a lot more dominant than people give them credit for. But, when I saw the bracket and I look at Burke, all I was thinking is, this is the last 7th seed I want to play.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going into that game and it just had that feeling. I'm like, this could be a last game. I didn't think it the week before against Papio South, even though we had a scare. But I remember even when we were up by 20 and they were reading off Omaha North, just kicking the crap out of Millard South, and still like, we got to finish this one off. Sadly, we didn't get the job done, and credit Burke, their running back went off.
It's still, I like to put it on the list just because we were up 20 on Burke. Burke did come back, but as a sports fan alone, you look at that game and you say that is football at its greatest.
Yeah.
Both of you guys put up what, over 40
Yeah, it was
points.
like, I think 39
Yeah.
to 30, or it was a bit.
It was a high-scoring game. Just
momentum swing.
straight-out football, playoff football in Nebraska. That is probably one of my favorite games to commentate and watch. Millard West always had those interesting games from time to time, so I think putting Burke Millard West playoff game in there was necessary.
Well, and then with the basketball
Yeah,
and everything.
and then so to move on from the Burke rivalry, we had them in football. Then we played them in basketball for districts, and we ended up beating Burke, and that alone sent us into a district championship game against Prep, who ended up rolling over the whole entire state to win a state title, but
that Burke
still
game,
beating
that
Burke,
was, that was pretty.
It was a one-possession game,
right, really.
pretty much the whole game, and Mitchell Sharif, I think he had around 27 to 37 points, I believe. I believe one of those two numbers was the right one, but he definitely brought us to the brink, and so we ended up beating Burke in basketball. Then we moved on to baseball, where they beat us and eliminated us from the state tournament, and that was kind of just, I think Millard West, they played Creighton Prep the night before that, lost 9-8, and I think that's where Millard West kind of bowed out.
Yeah, and it
from a lot of people, I wasn't able to make it to that game, but from a lot of people, they said they kind of looked a little sluggish, obviously fatigue and just kind of.
And they played two powerhouses beforehand.
Yeah. Do we want to go and play against Millard South and prep for 3 more games?
Yeah, and I think it kind of what hurt them, and it's unfortunate, was they used up all their offense the 2 prior days. I mean, yeah, we lost to Prep, but we scored 8 runs.
In those 2 games,
like 17, wasn't it total?
Yeah, they had against Millard South they had 10 hits. Against Prep they had 14.
Yes.
And against Prep, usually 14 hits will win you a ball game. Prep only had 5.
And they scattered them.
Yeah, and Millard West just kind of had those mistakes. They had, I believe, 12 to 13 walks in that game.
Yeah.
Against Prep, and that'll never help the team.
That's true. Whenever you lose in a double elimination setting in baseball, it's always tough to come back. Especially like you said, you have to win multiple games. I mean, after that first loss, you really need a gut check to get through that.
Yep.
Especially with the level of pitching you have in high school and how many pitchers you would need to do that, it is just really tough.
And I think with the Burke game too, because I think their pitcher threw a 3-hitter against
I think so.
us. So we talk about all the hits being used, and it's in a 1-game playoff scenario, like elimination game, it's whoever has a better game, and they did. And I think the interesting thing about Burke going into football is they're on our schedule next year.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that's going to be ugly.
I think
Burke is
they're going to be good, but also we've got I think Millard West is going to be a hit or miss team in football.
Mm-hmm.
I could see 1 loss, because I think there's going to be 1 loss in the regular season. You look at that schedule: Kearney, Omaha North, Burke, Millard North, who's going to be stronger, Millard South, who's probably at the top of their game, and then Lincoln North Star, who's also getting good. So I think there's at least going to be a loss in there. I'm just curious if that loss comes early, how the junior class is going to step up when they're seniors. And I think they've got not necessarily 1 leader, but I think they've got a good core group of guys. So I'm excited for that Burke game.
Well, for Burke, you got Heinrich and Hickman to look out for, possibly 2 top 100 overall recruits in the nation. That is.
And the thing about those guys, don't get me wrong, they're great athletes. They have a great body build and body type to play the position they play. But LSU and all these just powerhouse football team, I just don't understand.
Honestly,
it,
I didn't. When I played Henrik, going up against him and blocking him, I've gone up against AJ every day for the past 3 years. Mm-hmm. He hits 10 times harder. AJ, every time he hit me, it felt like I got. I don't even know. He hits hard. Henrik, I was very kind of underwhelmed by it. I see Hickman though. When you're 6'7", fast, jump tall or jump. His vertical's insane. Yeah. He's got the look.
And I think the thing about it, once you pick up one offer, that's when they start flooding in. Yeah. They just start flooding in, and I think, don't get me wrong, they're great athletes, but I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now. they got their offer from Iowa and Nebraska, and then the rest of the nation,
schools.
yeah. And then they got their 4-star rating, 5-star rating, or whatever they got.
Yeah.
And there they go. But
they'll continue up until signing day.
So,
Yeah, any predictions real quick? Think Scott Frost will be able to reel either of them in? Or
I think Hickman. I've heard Henrik is leaning towards Minnesota of all schools.
I honestly don't think either of them will come. I think those two guys being from Burke, just knowing Burke, I think they're going to go somewhere far. Just make it interesting for them. All right, on to the next one. Kind of to add on to the football season, we kind of went back to that at the end. So first off, Gio and Brody's combined 400-plus yards in a game, and also Gio's 96-yard run. Not the same games, but still two pretty impressive things. Kind of favorite moments in the football season. I say we start with Gio's 96-yard run.
Yeah, that was.
Do you kind of recall?
Well, and the funny thing is that was the one offensive snap I was not on the field for. I think I was going through concussion protocol. I passed, but I just remember I was, our trainer Tom was looking at me, and I see a broken play, and I see Gio in the backfield. I'm like, oh no, don't let up a safety, and then all of a sudden, just shot out of the cannon, and he's running, ball in his hand. Didn't have time to tuck it.
Still kind of looking for that pass, but he's
going. And the thing about Gio is Brody's faster than him, but I've never seen someone with that 0 to 60 speed in that short amount. I mean, I think he hits top speed in his second stride.
Well, I think the thing about Gio is he's more shifty. He's harder to tackle.
Yeah.
Just in the sense of. He can. I just feel like he moves his legs a little faster, and he's more
and his creativity.
Yeah. He's got the perfect Johnny Manziel mind,
Yeah, no, and
and
the funny thing about that is, just kind of adding on to Gio, just because he had a lot of incredible runs. I remember the one at Miller North where he faked that inside step to that guy, and the dude fell down. Yeah. For Miller North.
Crossed him up in the middle of the field like it's
and then he just keeps on running and breaks the tape.
Yeah.
When you're blocking for a kid like that, it's interesting because there's plays where he'll be in the backfield, and I don't think our O-line was strong this year. I think that we had a lot of people developing, so there were a lot of broken plays, especially on pass plays. So there'd be times where you're blocking, and you're thinking you have a mental clock in your head, and you're like, this broke, so you're looking around, and I remember especially against Burke at one point, it was their first touchdown where he just scrambled for 30 yards. I'm blocking, I'm looking around like, where's Gio? It's been 5 seconds, and all of a sudden he hurdles over my leg and runs it in for a touchdown. I mean, it looks like he's playing backyard football out there, what he's able to do.
And funny thing is, me, you, and Gio always used to do that.
Yeah, no,
and I mean,
and that was even before he was playing. I'm like, he'll never be that great, and turns out to just be a stud out there.
And the thing about him is again, like we were talking about, when you get a guy that he's that creative, and he just enjoys playing the game. I mean, obviously he's going to play football at Northwest Missouri State. He's just a guy that doesn't mind getting hit.
He's a competitor.
Yeah. He's a competitor. It kind of runs in the blood, I'd say. His whole family is all athletes, and he's definitely looking to do something big later on. So, next one is going to be Jack Huffman winning state in wrestling. Again, anytime someone wins a state championship, that's huge for us. And Jack Huffman being the athlete he is in wrestling, one of those guys that likes to travel around. Obviously, he's still wrestling now, traveling around the states, doing his thing. Just kind of seeing Jack Huffman evolve from kind of how small he was back freshman, sophomore year, and kind of just evolve into the athlete he is now is just real cool to see. Obviously, for wrestling, it's a tough sport, Yeah. You got to cut weight, you got to gain weight for really any wrestling competitions, and just cool to see Jack.
Yeah, and, he was in the state finals, I believe, every year. And didn't he go second, first?
I think so, yeah.
And I remember when he got second his junior year, I was talking to the wrestlers. I'm like, do you think he'll be able to make it back up top? And I think it was a freshman that beat him or a sophomore. And so when you see that, you're thinking, and they were all telling me, like, I don't know, the kid that beat him, he's pretty
He'll
good
be
at
there
him.
again, yeah.
And I think, you got to, anytime a guy goes out and loses to an underclassman, it's you almost think, oh, his career's over, he'll never win a state championship. But you got to credit the time he spent in the off season, because you only see those 6 minutes on the map or on the mat that they wrestle for, but that's all his strength training, that's the conditioning work, and I think it's just kudos to him for going out there and taking back his title.
For sure, really cool to see, and obviously that whole wrestling team, a fun group to watch. Cole Zebley and Matt Sorge, two of the other guys that were kind of.
I think they both placed this year,
and they were like, those three were the guys that were kind of the leaders of the senior class.
All good friends.
Yeah, just a good group of guys that, Jack just went out and won a state title there, ended it in a good note. And then the final one we have is the golf team making state. I was the one that kind of pitched this idea about getting them into this because just seeing Chris Connell, Ryan Rogers, Nolan and Gabart, those three guys, the three seniors.
Three redheads.
Yeah. Kind of made that good bond, this season. Chris Connell is like a newcomer to golf. Ryan and Nolan, they've been playing golf for quite a while, and Chris to get onto the team kind of made them gain a little bit of more respect for each other, obviously off the course, but also on the course. I mean, those three guys, they put in a lot of work, and I definitely wanted to add them in. Just seeing where Chris came from, obviously not playing last season in golf. I know Ryan and Nolan kind of reached out to him when they went out for a round of golf once, I believe last summer, and they kind of said, hey, I say you try out for the golf team and let's see what we can do. And Chris made the team, and now they're going to be competing in state, I believe, in the up-and-coming weeks.
And I think this is probably the best, group we've had heading into state in a while. I mean, Miller West isn't known for being golf. You usually got the preps up there, but I was talking to Ryan. I mean, I don't know if he thinks they can win it all, but I know he was saying that they'll compete.
But yeah, the thing is, as long as you're there, you have a shot,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's just kind of cool to obviously see the senior boys go out on a good note, obviously, along with all the other teams out there. And yeah, for that golf team, it's just cool to see those three guys kind of come together and have one final hoorah. And, that is one of the final sports that isn't finished. So I figured we'd add them in there and kind of give them a little
I think
good luck.
It might actually be the last.
State. Yeah.
I think just kind of looking back at, all the seniors that we've watched last 4 years, and I know just the sports experience at West, I think we've got one of the best programs, and I think it's almost fitting. I think this is one of the best senior classes we've had. With Dr. Loof, he's leaving, but he was, a great athletic director, always took care of the athletes here, and it's weird seeing it all end and people move on and wearing different colors next year than green, black, and white.
Yeah, for sure. And final podcast here. We've been doing this for 3-some years now, Jaden, and then again, final podcast.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's not going to be the same without Millard West Sports, obviously, and, those were just a few of the favorite memories that we've had only this year. I mean, there is a lot more that we could say about what we've seen, obviously being broadcasters, commentators, all that good stuff, story writers, everything. It was a fun time, and that is, again, really all we can say about, our favorite memories from this season. This has been J.D. Wessel.
Jaden Cover.
Craig Sullivan.
With the final Wildcat breakdown. We'll catch you guys never.